Big Z Reviews. Thor, Love and Thunder is the newest Disney Marvel film that just came out recently. And, once again, I loved it. This is my kind of film and I really enjoyed it. But, I mean, it's not without its faults.
These hands were once used for battle. Now they're but humble tools for peace. I need to figure out exactly who I am.
So this is the fourth Thor movie, but essentially the second Taika Waititi Thor movie. And it's really interesting for have him do a sequel because, he's never done a sequel to any of his movies. And, his first one, I think they were giving up a little on the Thor solo films. And they kind of just let him do whatever he wanted to. Like, essentially, he destroyed everything from the previous Thor movies. And, the Thor Ragnarok was reborn through that. And Ragnarok is probably my top 5 favorite Marvel films. And it's like, I absolutely loved Ragnarok. And this is not as good as Ragnarok. But, I mean, it's not saying it's not a good film. But I think it's just that, he couldn't break down the stuff because he already did that. So now he had to, all the cast of characters bring them back together and have them go another venture. And I think that sometimes it just felt a little much like just another Thor adventure instead of something special, if you know what I'm saying. And it's fine because I think that one of the biggest problems with this is that I've seen from behind the scenes stuff that they decreed that this movie could not be longer than 2 hours. And I heard that there was a 3.5 hour cut. And they're saying it's mostly a bunch of jokes that you never see, it wasn't funny. But the way Taika and a lot of the cast have been doing interviews and stuff, it's odd. They're almost kind of hating on the movie. Especially, I know there's one scene where they kind of bad, calling out the bad CGI. And there's also a thing right now going out that how Marvel uses and abuses all of the computer graphics companies. And they get lowball numbers and work them to death. And then so many companies, after getting a big break and working with Marvel, go bankrupt. And it's really sad. And they hear them just bashing all their hard work, even if sometimes the CGI isn't the best, is tough, And this other interviews are just a little weird. But I feel like maybe that he had to fight to get his cut, in the film. I really don't know the whole backstory, but it's interesting. He's definitely they're letting him say whatever he wants about it, which is even more interesting. They usually try to keep him tight-lipped. But for I traveled with my brother 2 hours to see this, and I'm at nearest IMAX, and I came out of it just absolutely loving it. But it was the kind of film that as more time went by and you thought about it, it's definitely you're more critical of it. And I'm really curious to see how this will hold up to multiple viewings. I'm not sure. I might like it more. I'm not sure. Because it's interesting because the comics this pulls from is some of my favorite comics in the recent age. But that's actually I got back into buying and reading the issues of comics in the early to mid 2010s. And that's some of my introductory characters or storylines was this Thor and Gorr the God Butcher, along with Thor, played by a woman. And that was a big thing then because people were mad about it, but it was after some big worldwide event, Thor lost he was not worthy of holding the hammer anymore, and all of a sudden they popped up this new Thor. And I think they just called her Thor. They didn't call it. I think they started calling her Mighty Thor later, but this whole thing that who is the Thor, and it's the whole thing with they had a red herring of this SHIELD agent. And the actual story is pretty good. Like, they're going against Roxxon, which is like the main evil company in the Marvel comics. And the leader of it is actually a real Minotaur, but he's like trying to destroy the world, and he's working with the ice giants. And like Natalie Portman, and then you realize, like, they eventually reveal that it is Natalie Portman. I mean, it is Jane Foster, Thor's old girlfriend, that is Thor now. But then it's also revealed that she has it's revealed that she has stage 4 cancer, and that like it's kind of sad and really interesting. And this movie does all that, but I think that the biggest weakness is that it doesn't give her time to shine as Thor. Like, you're with Chris Hemsworth, and you get like a scene of her with the hammer kind of doing stuff. Then you come back, and Thor comes back to the new Valhalla, or not new Valhalla, but new Asgard, and like, she's there, she is Thor. Like, you hadn't seen her on any adventures. And I feel like that with Disney Plus, I would love to see more of her. Like, you could have had this whole like global warming sort of climate activist stuff with Jane Foster as Mighty Thor, like in a little 6-episode miniseries, and that would have been great, and we have more time with them. And again, you could have even had more as Christian Bale, but that's the other thing. Like, the other comic this movie takes from is when Thor is and Gorr the God Butcher. Like, it's the best Thor comics I've ever read. And it's really interesting because I think it's Jason Aaron is the creator of them. But it's interesting because, like, Gorr the God Butcher is a real threat. And, like, but they break it up really interestingly because, like, there's, like, a time travel sort of thing. But, like, you see young Thor, that he's, like, in the year, like, around the year 1000 on Midgard, Earth, with the Vikings. And then you see, like, the Avengers age Thor, in the year 2000s. And then you see King Thor in, like, the year 3000s. And, like, and the King Thor, there's, like, been a global apocalypse. Like, Earth is just rubble. And he's, like everyone he knew while he was Avenger is dead. And, like, but it's really interesting, like, the multiple aspects of time throughout the story. And but, like, what they did with Christian Bale is great as Gore. He's one of the better Marvel villains, and I like that they didn't try to keep too true to the comics. They're saying, like, he's a little bit too much like Voldemort, and I see what they're saying, because Gore, like, doesn't have a nose, but he also has, like, a lot more, like, tentacles and stuff. Like, they didn't do that much. He did, like, the dark powers with the sword, but, like, I like that anything that would hinder Christian Bale's performance, I think, I'm glad they didn't use. But this as a whole film, like, it feels very compressed, and it feels like, but it's funny, and they have a lot of, like, good times. But I kept feeling like, I think the thing I was missing the most was a chance to see Gore actually feel like a real threat. Like, the intro of the movie is amazing, and how they introduce him, and, like, how he kills this one god. But then later, like, Chris Hemsworth Thor is with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they get all these distress calls, and gods are being killed all over the universe. And, like, but you don't actually see any of it. I need, like, a couple more scenes, like 2 more scenes of him butchering gods, and actually feel like this guy is a threat to Thor. And I never got that. And also, like, the motivations for, like, once he kidnaps the kids, that's all just a little generic and it works, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like, Thor is kind of the antithesis of Gore's, like beliefs, because he believes that all gods are evil and they don't care about the people that follow them, and they won't fight for them. So he has to kill them. The universe would be better without any gods. And Chris Hemsworth kind of, like, contradicts that, because he's always helping the people of Midgard, even as a hero, maybe not as a god. But, like, and then he gives him a chance to be even more of a hero. So, like, it kind of goes against his whole being, but they gotta do what they gotta do. They gotta make a move. They gotta give him a MacGuffin to try to get something to go fight him. And all that stuff is great. Like, I like, the old gladiator as, Russell Crowe as Zeus is funny. And the whole scene is really fun. But again, like, that could have been, like, it could have used that as like, Gore followed Thor to all where all these gods are, and like butchered the whole stadium of them or something like that. I feel like they missed out on some butchering. Like, if they're the character named the God Butcher, I want to see some goddamn butchering. And I think, like, it is like the only thing that made it PG-13 really to me is Chris Hemsworth's ass. But I mean, hey, I guess you take what you can get. But the actual story, like that, I thoroughly enjoyed it still. Like, Taika Waititi as Korg is great again, and like there is Tessa Thompson is great as Valkyrie. Like, and I really like the portrayal of the mighty Thor from Natalie Portman. The only thing is, like, I'm not going to spoil stuff, but like with how the cancer interacts with taking up Mjolnir and becoming Thor, like, I think that they manipulated enough to try to make it have more importance in the final fight. But I feel like I liked how the comic did it better, because that's on a longer run. So like, she's Thor for a while, but like in the comics, essentially, like the Mjolnir does not drain her energy or anything like that. Essentially, when she picks it up, she becomes Thor with all the powers of it, and it strengthens her body. But Mjolnir cannot distinguish between healthy cells and cancerous cells. It's like her cancerous cells are still Jane Foster's cells. So, but the thing is, because the radiation chemo, like the whole way chemo works, is it poisons the body. It destroys the body in the hope that it'll kill the fast multiplying cancerous cells in the body before that kills the actual body. And like, but the thing is, every time she takes up the hammer, it cures her radiation sickness, but it doesn't cure the cancer. So then when she's done, she goes back and she's just as weak as she was, but there's no radiation. Her cancer is just as strong. So that's like how they did it. It wasn't like that. The movie uses it more as each time she uses the hammer, it like drains her energy, which doesn't really make sense. But movies gotta do what a movie's gotta do, and it's got to set up the climax. And like there's a lot of stuff like I love seeing Eternity. There's like there's one of my favorite comic runs is a Silver Surfer, when like he becomes like he's linked to this woman on Earth. And like the art, I love the art of that run. But like that's the Eternity, it plays a big part, and it's like there's like a love thing because like between Eternity and the universe. There's like a lot of interesting stuff with that, and I feel like they took the art design from them a bit for that. But like the whole grant one wish is kind of like whatever, Again, movie's gonna do what movie's gonna do. That's why I think that like the actual like story, like a lot of the jokes and stuff are great from Taika, but the actual story of what happens is a little middling. But still, I love these movies, and for me, I still loved it. That's the thing though, like I feel like this one, if you're starting to not like Marvel films, this may get you to not like them more. But if you still love Marvel films, I think you'll still love it. It's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing like how I like it when I watch it again, but I still really enjoyed it, but it's definitely not as strong as Ragnarok. But I'd probably give it like an 8.5 out of 10, and 8.75 out of 10, something like that. And like I would recommend it if you're a fan of Marvel, especially if you're a fan of Thor. But if you're not a fan of Marvel, I definitely wouldn't start here. But thanks for watching. If you want to see more of me, you can subscribe down below. Thanks.